There's a moment that happens in almost every group conversation. Someone is talking, another person jumps in. The energy moves quickly from one voice to another. Opinions appear almost instantly, like everyone already knows what they want to say. And then there's someone sitting there quietly. Not uncomfortable, not exactly shy, just watching. They notice who interrupts first, who hesitates before speaking, the subtle shift in someone's tone when they mention a certain topic, the small expressions that pass across people's faces for half a second before disappearing again. Most people don't realize how much is happening in those silent moments. From the outside, this kind of person is often misunderstood. When someone speaks less than the group expects, it's easy for others to fill in the explanation themselves. Maybe they're quiet because they have nothing to say. Maybe they're withdrawn. Maybe they're socially uncomfortable. But those assumptions usually miss what's actually happening. Psychologist Elaine Aron, whose research on highly sensitive people spans more than 3 decades, found that roughly 20% of the population processes emotional information more deeply than others. Not more emotionally, more thoroughly. Their nervous systems are wired to pause, absorb, and reflect before responding. This isn't shyness, it's a fundamentally different relationship with attention. When someone directs more attention outward, toward tone, body language, emotional signals, they naturally spend less of it projecting their own voice into the conversation. They're mapping the room while others are filling it. For many people, this didn't develop randomly. It was learned. Neuroscientist Alan Shore's research on early emotional development shows that children raised in unpredictable environments develop heightened sensitivity to interpersonal cues as a survival strategy. When a child can't control what happens next, reading the room becomes essential. Noticing the shift in a parent's mood before it becomes a problem, sensing tension before it surfaces. The nervous system adapts. It learns to scan first, observe first, understand the room before adding another voice to it. Over time, that adaptation becomes identity. For some people, being quiet isn't a personality preference, it's the residue of learning to stay safe by staying alert. And that's where this trait becomes more complicated than it first appears. The same sensitivity that makes someone perceptive can also make them hesitant. They notice so much that speaking up can feel like a risk. What if the moment is wrong? What if saying something out loud disrupts the fragile balance they've been quietly holding in place? So they stay on the edges of the conversation, watching, holding the insight, never quite saying it. There's a real cost to this, not just to the group, which loses a perspective that might have changed the conversation, but to the person themselves. They can spend years feeling slightly outside the rooms they're in, present but not quite participating, aware of everything, acknowledged by no one.
That isn't a superpower. It's a tension that deserves to be named honestly. The ability to observe deeply is a genuine form of intelligence. It shows up in relationships, in leadership, in any situation where reading people accurately changes outcomes. But it's most valuable when paired with the willingness to speak. The insight that stays inside the observer helps no one. The perception that never becomes words remains invisible to everyone it could have reached. If this describes you, there's a good chance this way of being developed for a reason. Your mind learned that understanding people first can be more valuable than speaking first. That was probably true once. It may have protected you in ways you're still only beginning to understand. But at some point, the protection becomes a pattern, and the pattern becomes a limit. The most interesting thing about people who watch more than they talk isn't how much they see. It's what they might do with it if they finally decided to speak. If this resonated, it's likely because someone specific came to mind, someone in your life who carries this quietly, or a version of yourself you recognized. That's worth a conversation. Share this with them. And if these kinds of reflections speak to something in your own experience, subscribe to stay connected. There's a lot more of this kind of thinking ahead.